Hello and welcome. I'm excited to be here with you and so grateful for this platform that provides each one of us the way to new opportunities. My name is Jana Masick. I'm your host of this live podcast, Powering Unique You. Today, I'm excited to have Amy Blaschka as my special guest. Amy is the social media ghostwriter and Forbes leadership contributor. She helps leaders just like you craft their stories and communicate and connect better. Welcome, Amy.
Hello, thank you for having me, Anna.
Yes. I'm so happy to have you here. And the topic of our conversation today is the power of your stories. So would you please share your story with us?
Okay, so my story, at least to becoming to where I am now as a social media ghostwriter, is a very non-linear one. So there wasn't like I woke up and decided one day I'm going to do this. It's very wiggly. It's crazy. Like probably a lot of people's stories aren't completely linear. So when I was a child, I was always the creative kid in the corner. I was writing stories. I was painting and drawing, very quiet, but very observant. Always loved people, always was interested in what made them tick. So I was shy, but I noticed things that others didn't. And I was like, who's this? And so as a child, I thought, okay, well, I want to be an artist. I want to be a writer. I want to do something that is really expressing all these creative ideas that are swirling in my little mind. And so I studied film in university. And that seemed to be the perfect medium because that was really about bringing the story to life, but also the collaborative aspect of it because I loved people and I loved working with people to really bring something to life and have a tangible results. I was like, okay, I'll do that. But even when I was in school, I vacillated back and forth between being a communications major and being what turned out to be a visual arts major with the film and video, simply because I really loved to write. To me, that was the primary medium of really bringing to life a story, an idea, something. So that ended up being my minor. And shockingly, I could not get a job right out of school as a filmmaker because, like that just doesn't happen. So I thought, okay, what's close? What's creative? Where can I go? And I ended up in what I call agency land. So I worked in advertising and marketing, PR, and ultimately in branding, which I didn't even know was a thing. But I learned very quickly, like, oh, I like this. This is every visual, verbal touch point of, at the time I was working with products, and really that emotional connection that you have with a brand, the company, of the product, that sort of thing. Now, I loved that job. I loved doing that. But what happened was because I love the people and I'm really good at being a liaison of sorts. And in the middle, I can interact and speak many different languages, not literally different languages, but languages of business. So I could talk with a designer or talk with a copywriter or talk with an art director, all the creative people, and understand that. But then I could also talk strategy and I could talk to a client. And because I was very good with the people, with the clients, I got pushed and kind of excelled in what, instead of being the creative at the age, I was on the account side, as they say. So loved it because I was still sort of creative adjacent, right?
Yes.
But, the more I did this, the farther I got from that sort of expressive nature. So, but I told myself, no, but I'm close. It's okay. It's enough.
Yeah.
And the branding in particular was really great. That was sort of a pinnacle and highlight. But, I got married then at this point, and my husband and I wanted to start a family. And when I was working and doing this, my clients were all over the country. It wasn't really feasible to have a child and go, oh, I have to fly to Atlanta to see Coke, or I've got to go to, all over, and I got to do this, but somehow get back in time to do this. So made the decision after we have 2 daughters, after we had the older daughter, that no one thought I would do this. I stayed home for about a year with her as a mom. And that was great. I really treasure that time. But it got to a point where she was a little toddler. We both needed to talk to people our own age, right? She needed to be with little kids. Mama needed to do something else. But I knew I couldn't go back to have the travel schedule. And I completely took a leap of faith and just was like, well, I'm going to start interviewing. And there was something in the city in which I live, because I live outside of San Francisco by like at least 45 minutes to an hour. So you'd have that commute. I didn't want to have that commute to the office. And interviewed and ended up becoming the CEO of a tourism entity, which sounds like what? How does that fit together? But the idea of tourism and travel and running what was called a destination marketing organization is about telling the story of a destination.
Yes.
You are trying to draw people to your
Yes.
destination to visit. And that, that industry is very service oriented, which really breaks my heart. The people are really about, they're people, first of all, but they really want to ensure an exceptional experience.
Yes.
And so I stayed with that in that job for like 10 years, longer than I ever had thought. But in my community, and subsequently had our second daughter. And then when I finally left there, I consulted with like organizations, so tourism organizations, for another 5 years or something like that. But again, it was that thing, like, you can be great at something that you do, which I was great. We had all these accomplishments. I love the team, built this. I'm a builder, right? Like, I like transforming things. My why is inspiring transformation. So it's like, I'm going to do this. Let's make it even better. And we did. But again, I was the CEO, so I was doing more operations, right? I was doing things that aren't creative, Amy. And when I finally stepped away, I was working, I think the last non-creative thing I did was an organizational audit, which sounds sexy as I think it does. And like I said, you can be great at something and be miserable and unfulfilled. And I just reached that point. And around the same time, this is when LinkedIn had opened up their platform for not just the original influencers, but everyone to publish. And I got into the habit of publishing, and I was really scared at first. I'm like, oh, nobody's going to want to read what I have to say. And slowly but surely was doing that consistently, and ended up, as you do, attracting more of a tribe and some folks. And a particular mentor of mine, who well-established writer, he was just, one of the original influencers. We got to know each other, and he was the one who said, Amy, you're a writer. You are creative, Amy, and you need to do this. And I've scared so much. Finally, was like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? I'm going to try this. Did it, and I have not looked back. And I will tell you now, it's like, I can't imagine my world where I'm not able to express myself and help other people. And the way I see it, I'm using my talents at their highest and best use. And I wish that for everyone, So that's my story. I know that may have run a little long, but that's it's convoluted.
Oh, wow. Thank you for giving the details. I do believe it is important for sharing the details, Amy, because yes, you can skip and you can give this broad view and fancy polished view, but most of us and for those who work in corporate jobs. And sometimes the job is good, like what you said, right? You've been in a good positions. You've been in the executive position. The job is good. It's great. Everything is good. Pay is good. But your heart may not be there. And you feel that the part that you want to be, expressing the most, and the part that you want to be creating, the part where you want to, help people in the best way that you see fit, was not quite utilized in that position. So that's where you make a decision what works best, but then it also a decision whether you stay in your comfort zone where you are and have a steady paycheck, or you make a leap, right? A leap of faith in the way, in yourself, in your capabilities, in your potential, and make things happen and change your life for better. So this is very inspiring story, Amy. Thank you for sharing. And why do you think the stories are so important for personal and professional development?
So what's really interesting about stories are that is a natural way that we are wired to connect, that we understand. The human brain works better in a narrative form. If you're trying to have somebody learn something, remember something, a story is a unique device that anyone can use. And what's great about stories we can have universal themes, right? That everybody will go, yes, that will resonate with them. But each of us has our own unique perspective and our own sort of journey along and sort of viewpoints that we can share. So you and I may have a story about a similar topic, but it will be very different and very much about, the lens with which we see the world and our experience. And I think, when we share those things, that draws others to us. So from a personal branding perspective, if you are trying to differentiate yourself, if you are trying to talk about who you are and not just as a title, right? That I'm a social media ghostwriter, or I'm a VP of marketing, I'm a CPA, I'm a dentist, whatever it is, you're more than that. And I think when you can kind of tell a story, whether it's a crazy, nonlinear story or something else, that helps people understand who you are better. And when you can humanize your story, that's what's, instead of being salesy and buy from me, hire me, do this, you're going to naturally have this organic pull that people will want to connect, hire, promote, partner, whatever it is with you when they better understand your story, because we like people that we like and we know and we trust. And the best way to do those things is to really share your wisdom and share your stories. So that can help you from a personal perspective, but also professionally, oh yes, okay, that Amy, okay, you know what, she talks about this and this is what she's about. And it helps people understand what matters most to you. And then you can also attract those people that are part of your tribe that really are like-minded or that are very different, but you can learn from them. So it's a really, really good tool that I think more people should really investigate and take advantage of.
Yes, I love how you expanded on this, Amy. And I believe to reflect on what you shared, it is important to, in a way, discover your story first, right? Because I feel we tie our identity so many times to the roles we play, right? We say, okay, I'm so and so, I'm a dentist, or I'm so and I'm, working in HR. And like exactly what you said, there's so much more to that. And that takes a little bit of a self-reflection and self-awareness, and discovering of what is that unique story that you have, unique experiences that you've been through, unique lessons that you learn, like this perspective that you have, and embracing that. Sometimes I found our most difficult experiences are the ones that shape us and the ones that teach us the most. And they're not easy to be embraced. And sometimes they're not easy to be shared because they're vulnerable. And that takes courage to embrace them. And then second, to be able to share them in a story that will showcase who you truly are, at the same time allow you to connect with others and attract the people that you desire to attract and work with. And that's exactly in personal and professional arenas would serve very well. That's great. And so what do you think prevent most people from sharing their stories or embracing their stories?
Fear. It's really, they're scared, right? Everyone's scared to kind of open up and be exposed. I mean, even me just, being able to say I'm a writer, like, oh my gosh, people are going to attack me. They're going to judge me. Everybody thinks if I share something about myself, I'm opening myself up to ridicule, to all these things. But I will tell you something. We women, people in general, are often our own worst critics, and we are harder on ourselves than any other human being would possibly be. So, I like to say that the stories we tell ourselves are the most important words we speak, because if you have a running dialogue in your brain, you're like, I could never do this. Like, for me, I'm not a writer. I could never do that. No one would really read anything I did. I'm not very good. I'm not worthy. I mean, fill in the blank. There's so many I am statements that are negative, right? That either we repeat or we've heard somewhere along the way that, well, that's not a practical career. I got that. If you had a marketable major, maybe if you did all these things that, it could be a seed planted when we were very young by a well-meaning adult, like a teacher, a parent, somebody, a friend might be joking, or you just, you glom onto that, particularly if you are a sensitive soul, as I am, and I'm sure many of you are out there, that, well, rather than, sort of risk, getting hurt, I'm just going to hold back. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to stay in my comfort zone. I'm getting paid well. I don't need to rock the boat, whatever. But, you don't grow in your comfort zone. You stagnate, right? And there's enough is enough. There's going to be a point where you're just going to just explode or just be miserable and say that there's too much. So I think that fear, and like you said, you need the courage. But I will tell you, the other side of that is so empowering, because when you can own your story, when you go, yeah, this happened to me, and particularly those things that we think are failures, right? Yes. Those are often the best way to connect, because guess what? We're all human, and everybody, right now on social media, it's all about this glossy, Instagram-worthy life, right? Nobody has that. That is not real. And people want that authenticness. They want to know, even if you've made it, guess what? I failed along the way. Something happened. But the fact that you've kept going and your story of overcoming that adversity, or despite the challenges, you're still here. So I mean, that's what's more important, is being authentic and true to who you are. And yes, it's scary, but I will tell you, when you are brave enough to be vulnerable, you invite others to do the same, and they're much more welcoming and accepting than you might imagine. So I encourage everyone to take that leap.
Yes, that's so true. And talking about the power of stories, right? When you keep yourself in fear, you strip yourself of that power. It's basically you just letting the power go. And then when you get frustrated and upset about people or by circumstances, you giving those people and circumstances your power away. So it's important to take your power back and to say, this is who I am, and say, I want to learn more about myself, right? It ties it with self-awareness, with self-reflection, and own your story and share it with courage. Maybe somebody may not accept it, but, not everybody's going to like us, and we need to be okay with that. And there's a beauty in that courage when you meet people like you, for example. I followed your craft and I followed your stories on LinkedIn for many months, and I admire, and I've connected with you, and I'm very honored to get to know you a little bit closer and share this wisdom that you have with our listeners. So thank you, Amy.
Yeah. So can I just say one thing, because you mentioned something, and I literally have this on my little office wall over here, that we have to be okay with not everyone liking us. I think when we're opening up, we get worried about that, or when we're telling kind of the story of our lives or what really matters to us, our career story, and people, but I want to be all things about people. Kere's the thing, and I have a quote on my office wall that says, "You are something specific to a special few." Now, keep that in mind. That what that means is, okay, yeah, maybe not everyone will like you or want to connect with you or whatever, but that's okay. Those aren't your people, right? Yes. Because there are the people that will resonate, and those are your people. So don't be afraid to let go of those that are irrelevant and don't care and don't matter. So anyway,
that's so true.
That's really important.
This is great. And what you said, say it again. What is the quote?
You are something specific to a special few.
You are something specific to a special few.
Yes, it's not mine. I love to quote it, but it actually came from Sasha Strauss, a gentleman that I'd seen at a tourism conference years and years and years and years ago. And it was talking about branding. Yes. But it applies to so many things. And every time, so shout out to Sasha Strauss for that. And every time I use it in print, I do tag him on LinkedIn, because it's brilliant. It really is. And it's so simple and basic. But if you keep that in mind, you don't have, you be able to kind of focus. And focus is really important when you're telling your story, because you're not everything. You're something specific.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. That's wonderful. So, Amy, what are the few tips you can help that can help our listeners to improve their communication?
Okay, so there are a couple things that I always preach, and I try to practice what I preach. So if you catch me not doing this, please call me out on it. But the first is clarity. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and clarity means, first figuring out, what do I want? So if
Mm-hmm.
you are communicating one-on-one with somebody, or you are trying to get a new job, or you're trying, whatever it is, you figure out, what is it? What do I want? And then what are the actions that are going to support that, right? So clarity is really important, because in communications, obviously in written and verbal, all these things, if you're rambling and rambling and rambling and you never get to a point, and you're like, people are like, what do you
Mm-hmm.
mean? What? You'll lose
Mm-hmm.
them, right? You'll confuse them or lose them. So it's really important to have clarity with your communication, so you can be better understood. And if you were asking for help from somebody, they know how they can help you. So be clear.
Yes.
So clarity is really important. And then the other two things I talk about are consistency and
Mm-hmm.
discipline. So that
Mm-hmm.
is when you have clarity about who you are, what you want, right? You stay there. That's your wheelhouse. What are you about? So, you
Yes.
said you've watched and followed my content for a while. If suddenly I went off and started talking about blockchain or cryptocurrency, you would probably be like, what? That's not Amy, right? So you don't want to confuse people. It doesn't mean you can't talk about new things, but you
Yes.
need to have some consistency, so people come to associate things with you, that, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is what you are about. That makes sense. And the discipline to do that, right? You want to do regularly, be talking about these things, and the discipline to sort of make sure that you do that and you don't vary from that message. This is particularly important when you're talking about what you want to do from a career perspective,
Yes.
right? Well, I'm a horse trainer, and I'm a dentist, and I'm a
Mm-hmm.
CPA, and I'm this. Well, pick a lane, at least one thing, because if there's too many things, you make it difficult for people to hire you, to help you, or just partner with you in general. So those are the three things: clarity, consistency, and discipline.
I love this advice, Amy, because this can serve us in many ways. And the challenge, and what I have came to challenge personally, is clarity. Sometimes you do not know what is that you want. So again, coming back to your embracing your story and learning and discovering yourself again. I think as children, we used to dream and imagine yourself and think about things that we can achieve. But then at some point, we kind of got molded in the circumstances we are. And we are finding ourselves maybe sometimes stuck and sometimes unhappy. But it's kind of comfortable, you know what you do, but you don't grow to your potential. You don't become who you can be.
Right.
And then you kind of scared a little bit of what is that I can be, and what is that exactly I want. So that discovery phase, the seeking for clarity from within, is so important, and staying on that lane. Because even when I look at the resumes and we hire people, and the people want to be this and that, and they send me a resume, so we have 3 openings, and the person has one profession, and he's sending me application for those 3 completely different. And I'm like, well, I'm seeing you're applying for 3 completely different roles. What is that exactly you want? Like, any.
Right. Right. And that you're trying to be all things to all people. You just, focus. You'll have a
Yes,
better
yes.
time.
Focus on the things that you want to achieve and stay in that lane. This is great. And discipline is so important. Self-discipline, right? It's like to discipline our children very much, but then self-discipline is something I read recently that stood out to me. Is the most difficult person you can ever lead is yourself.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree.
It's just so true that self-discipline is important. And then consistency in whatever it may be, and sometimes we push ourselves, especially with the new year resolutions. We say, oh, we're going to do this, and we just tag so much expectations upon ourselves, and then we end up doing nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, what was helpful in consistency is to find out where I am in life, find what is important to me, and then find the routines to say, well, maybe I cannot do videos every day, but I definitely can commit 1 hour a week and be consistent with that. So, maybe I cannot go to the gym every 3 days, but I can take 15 minutes in the morning and do exercise and be consistent with that. So it's a small things, and as you do things, small things consistently, then they become more natural, and you can achieve a lot of things. So thank you for sharing. That is really valuable, Amy.
Mhm.
And I have a question. What is authentic voice as you describe it, and how can someone discover it?
Authentic voice is really your unique perspective and point of view. So, how you see the world, right?
Mhm.
And all of your life and professional, personal experiences will shape that. And, instead of trying to be the next, I don't know, Gary Vee or Oprah or whatever, it's more interesting. There's only one of you. So, what is your take? What's your take? And how do you see things? So I think that speaks to authentic voice. And the way you get out that, I think, is you've mentioned these a few times. So it's it's really taking some time to reflect on what matters most to you. What do you want? Again, I mean, I keep saying, what do you, it's clarity. What do you want? But that question is surprisingly difficult for folks to kind of narrow down. And you have to force yourself to really discover. And I think the thing too to remember with that, what's why one is that can and does change over time. So what
Yes.
you wanted at 20 years old is probably different than what you want at 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever, wherever you are in life. And that's okay. So it's
Yes.
really important to build in that reflection time to kind of sit
Mhm.
down with yourself and be aware and be intentional with your time and what you're doing. Because if you say, I want this, but you're doing all these things or hanging out with the people that don't support that, then there's some incongruence there and you're not going to get that. So you really need to take a look at what you want, but also are the people that surround me, are they supporting this? Are the things I'm doing supporting this? So you can be more authentic if you stay true to who you are. And part of that is owning up to that. Even if you think it's not sexy or it's not sort of the in thing right now, that's okay. You be you, right? And there's only one of you. So that's really important.
Yes, this is wonderful. And the last question I have for you, Amy, what is the best advice you have ever received?
It's two words: stop hiding.
Stop hiding. That's a good one.
Yes, and as it relates to the stories and what we've been talking about, it's really when because that's essentially what I was doing for many years, right? You're like on paper, it's like, wow, she's a CEO and she's making a good living and she's doing all these amazing things, and yes, all true, but peel that back, and are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Is it this? What are you hiding from? You're hiding because you're scared. You're scared of all these things. But when you stop hiding and you put yourself out there, whatever that means to you, you're going to put yourself in a position to actually achieve what you want, right? And if
Mhm.
you do the work and you have the clarity on, I want this, these are my goals, you have to stop hiding. You have to jump out of that comfort zone to get there, because it's so empowering and so worthwhile to do that. It is scary as hell, right? To get out of the place where, no, I'm fine. Everything's good. Why would I do this? Well, because you're better on the other side. So stop hiding. Those of you that, even though you think it's enough, oh, it's fine. It's not, because you're going to wake up one day and you're going to wonder why you wasted decades of your life not going after what you wanted. So stop hiding.
Yes, this is profound. This simple but profound advice. And flip it on the action side. Start showing up every
That's right.
So discover the power of your true story and start showing up every day for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
family, for the people you love, for the people that love you, and go, for the dreams and for the aspirations that you want. And sometimes it is not a drastic change that we truly need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is just this clarity, and then saying, well, financially or circumstances wise or family wise, I may not be able to jump off and just go full force the way I want to be. And that's how I found myself. Say, I have commitments in life. And yes, maybe I want to jump and do these beautiful things or this, service things and aspire to be, this type of person. It is all good. And looking at my practical situation, I said, well, I need to get myself on the financial track first. I need to take care of my family situation. And then However, I don't want to be stuck in this, and I'm going to start showing up in small things. I'm going to start doing something, some steps, some ways, or some taking some courage, reaching out and building relationship, reaching out and meeting people that I want to be like. Those small steps will take you slowly but surely to the place where you want to be, and more importantly, will help you to become the person you desire to be.
And make sure that the stories you're telling yourself are encouraging and positive.
Yes, this is big time. Definitely keep every day shifting this pattern of thinking, and shifting the pattern that you're enough, you are unique, you have value, you're worthy, and you can do great things. Gain the clarity you want, and accept your story, and go, share it authentically with the world, and start building relationship and see where it's going to take you, right?
Right. Exactly.
Thank you so much, Amy, for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
By sharing our real life stories, we encourage and empower each other to change ourselves from within, and ultimately change this world for better. This is Jana Masiek, and I encourage each one of you to keep powering unique you. Thank you again, Amy.
Thanks, Jana. Bye, everyone.
Bye.